from the White House tonight is President Donald Trump. Mr. President, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much, John.
Let me pick up what I was just discussing with Lindsey Graham, and that is Ferguson happened under President Obama, Vice President Joe Biden. Same with Baltimore, Cambridge, all these other incidents. They didn't have any reforms. Criminal justice reform happened with you. Historically, black colleges funded more money for a longer period of time. That was you as well. And if I look at some of the other opportunity zones, that's also. And you're always under attack, but then you came out with these reforms. Let's talk about police reforms you announced yesterday.
Well, we did, and if you look at the previous administration, and frankly, many administrations, they did nothing on this, and we did criminal justice reform. We did tremendous opportunity. If you look at the opportunities we've given everybody, but the opportunity zones have been incredible. It's been one of the great things in terms of investment in areas and in terms of unemployment. It's been incredible. Before the Chinese plague came to us, the African-American, if you look at the African-American unemployment, Hispanic unemployment, Asian unemployment, women, everything, we had the best unemployment numbers in the history of our country. We had almost 160 million people working. Nobody's been close. And now we're doing it again. You see the numbers coming back very strongly. But you're right. The previous administration did nothing.
I talked a lot. For 3 years, we did an investigation, and we've been proven right every step of the way on what Joe DeGeneres kind of shocked me the first time. He said, dirty cops, because I have a lot of family members that were in law enforcement, including my own parents in some form. And, you know, I always said the 99%. I have an FBI button on me I wear every night. I have a CIA button for the good people of intelligence. You talked about the good cops. You know, there's a report tonight in Atlanta that the department is experiencing a higher than usual number of call-outs for the upcoming shift tonight. You've heard of the term blue flu. I opened the show with, well, who are you going to call if we defund the police or eliminate the police? That seems to be getting momentum in the country. That scares me. I'd like to know your feelings on it.
Well, Joe was referring, when he said dirty cops, I believe, to James Comey, and he was right about that one, and McCabe and that group. So he was referring to them, but, you know, it's a different form. It's a different uniform. And, you know, you have bad and you have great. You have cops and police and law enforcement. They're great people, and that's a vast, vast majority of them. And they do an incredible job, and they keep us all safe. And they love their country, and they don't want to make any mistakes. But they're under siege. There's no question about that. And we worked on some things very closely with law enforcement, and a lot of it you had on your show. I noticed the other night you had it on your show. And whether it's the cams, you know, the dash cam and the body cam, which is a camera, basically, very sophisticated camera, and other things. We have a lot of that in the bill, and it passed, and it's going to pass. A lot of things are happening right now, but I signed an executive order, and a lot of that is included in what the Republicans put out today. And the Democrats, all they do is complain. You know, they complain, but they've done nothing. They do nothing. They want to defund, and they want to abolish. They want to abolish police departments, and that's what's going to be. You know, with Biden, if you look, if he ever got in, you'd be abolishing police. You could just watch, because he's not going to be running anything. People around him will, and they will be abolishing police. They'll be getting rid of your Second Amendment very quickly. You will not have a Second Amendment, and many other things you won't have that you'd like to have.
You know, we're watching what's unfolding in Seattle, Mr. President, the autonomous zone, Chaz, Chops, the Summer of Love, as the mayor refers to it, potluck spaghetti dinners. You have offered help to every governor that needs it, every mayor that needs it. They have outright rejected it in states like New York, cities like New York, states like Illinois, cities like Chicago, and that includes Seattle, where, you know, city blocks now have been taken over. And by the way, they built their own version of a wall, interestingly enough, to keep people out. And you keep offering to help, and they keep rejecting that help. And it's really the governor and the mayor's job. But there might come a moment where you might not have an option. I assume we would know when that moment exists. Why do you think they keep rejecting your help? Because it seemed to work in Washington, D.C. and Minneapolis when they did accept it.
Because the governor of the state of Washington is weak and the mayor is weak. And what they're doing is setting a precedent that's never been set before in this country. And these people that are taking over this incredible piece of real estate are obviously very good at real estate, maybe better than I was, because they paid nothing. They just took it over. And the police are somehow told not to be there. I'm sure they'd do a good job if they were told to do a good job. I assume they're properly trained. But we would go in there if they want us in, and we will take it back very quickly. It should never be allowed to fester like it's festering right now. It's disgraceful to our country. It's a disgrace.
Let's talk a little bit about your reaction to the two big cases. It seemed to be universal condemnation as it relates to George Floyd, and your thoughts on what were the charges that went down in Atlanta earlier today.
Well, the George Floyd case, nothing has to be said. I watched that. I couldn't really watch it for that long a period of time. It was over 8 minutes, and who could watch that? But it doesn't get any more obvious or doesn't get any worse than that. And I think it's a different kind of a case. And that man has some big problems. There's no question about it, the police officer, what he did. And I haven't met any, because I deal with law enforcement all the time, and I just left a big group of the top sheriffs and law enforcement people in the country, and nobody was sticking up for what he did. The event that took place yesterday I thought it was a terrible situation, but you can't resist a police officer. And, if you have a disagreement, you have to take it up after the fact. It was a very sad, very, very sad thing. And look, you take a look, it was out of control. The whole situation was out of control. I heard today and just got a report that the police officer's lawyer said that he heard a sound like a gunshot, and he saw a flash in front of him. So that's an interesting, I don't know that I would have necessarily believed that, but I will tell you that's a very interesting thing, and maybe that's so. They're going to have to find out. It's up to justice right now. It's going to be up to justice. I hope he gets a fair shake, because police have not been treated fairly in our country. They have not been treated fairly. But, again, you can't resist a police officer like that, and they ended up in a very terrible disagreement, and look at the way it ended. Very bad, very bad.
Terry McAuliffe, you talked about in your interview with my colleague and friend Harris Faulkner, you talked about Joe Biden almost having compassion on him a lot of ways. Terry McAuliffe actually said, I'm fine with him staying in the basement. He only sees 2 people a day as 2 body men. I'm fine with that, which I think is a very unusual and unique way to run for president of the United States. To me, I think there are legitimate questions as it relates to mental alertness and, well, let's say stamina and strength and acumen. I would argue just in the last 3+ years, your job is probably the hardest job in the world that I can see. I believe that to be true. Should that be an issue in the campaign?
Well, I think it's going to be an interesting issue, and he's been in the basement for a long time. I think he's really been run beautifully. He's not running his campaign. People are running his campaign. I see quotes all the time that he said this, he said that about me, and they're long, beautiful, flowing sentences. I said, Joe didn't make that statement, and Joe doesn't even know the statement was made, but they are leaving him there, and at some point he's going to have to come out for air. And I think, look, we've done a great job. We've done a great job. If you look back a few months to an economy that was the greatest of all time, everything we had was at records. No matter whether it's unemployment, whether it's the stock market, and now you look at what we're doing. I'm doing it all over again. We had to turn it off. We would have lost millions of people. We did. We turned it off, and now we've started up again, and we're going to have an amazing year next year. We're going to have a great third quarter. We just had the best jobs numbers, the biggest job gain in history, and we just had the biggest retail sales numbers in history for the last month.
Yeah.
So we're starting up, and it's going to be very, very strong. We're very close to a vaccine, even with it, without it. But I will tell you, we're very close to a vaccine, and we're very close to therapeutics, really good therapeutics. And but even without that, I don't even like to talk about that because it's fading away. It's going to fade away. But having a vaccine would be really nice, and that's going to happen.
So all these protests have been going on for weeks, and talk about social distancing kind of went away almost completely from what I can tell. There were many people I saw that were not wearing masks, and even some of the politicians now that are critical of you having a rally in Oklahoma on Saturday. Now all of a sudden they're saying that it may not be safe. I understand temperatures are going to be taken. I understand people that go are signing a waiver. I understand that masks will be worn by people and even distributed. I think I read somewhere. Maybe you should change the name of the rally and call it a protest, and maybe they will say it's okay then.
Yeah. Well, that's true. The protests, I mean, the protesters and anarchists and terrorists and looters and all of the people that were marching on various locations over the last couple of weeks, that's died down. They've lost some energy. That's good. But because many of them don't even know what they're protesting, frankly. But you look at that, and they were right on top of each other, large numbers, pretty large numbers, and they were right on top of each other. And nobody complained. When you look at fake CNN, it's total fake. It's a fake news operation. And it's really like an extension of the Democrat Party. And then you look at MSDNC, which is DNC, Democrat National Committee. And you see the way they talk. They never mention that. They don't talk about it. This is all you hear about Oklahoma, what we're doing. We'll be in Tulsa. You have a great mayor and you have a great governor. Governor Stitt, I spoke to him yesterday. They're so excited about it that you have no idea. And we have had so many signups. You know, there are lines of people now, and we won't be there for 3 days. They have lines of people right now trying to get into the arena. I mean, they'll be there. They'll be early.
How many people
signed up? They'll be in one of those early front rows.
How many people signed up? Do you know?
Over 1 million people requested tickets. Well, there's just a hunger for the rallies, and I enjoy doing them, but they enjoy them more importantly than me. They enjoy them. It gives energy to everybody, and we have tremendous enthusiasm. If you look at the polls, we're way ahead of Sleepy Joe in terms of enthusiasm. We have enthusiasm like they've never seen before, actually, and Joe has the lowest, I hear, enthusiasm on record. Now, they have a party, and the party believes in a lot of bad things: open borders, sanctuary cities. Open borders, think of it. Supposing like at Tijuana, we're up to 212 miles of wall, and this is serious wall, and I'm going to be at the wall very soon. We're going to celebrate over 200, but it's 212 miles now. Nobody is getting through, and very, very few people are coming through on our border. We have a tremendous border, but think of it, in Tijuana, Tijuana, Mexico, it's one of the most infected places on earth. And we have a wall between Tijuana and San Diego. You know, it's like a beautiful, very powerful wall. And California is very happy that we have it, because they wouldn't have any numbers. They would have numbers like you wouldn't believe right now if we didn't have that. So we've done a great job. We were very early to the call, as you know, because you're one person that reports it. But when we heard about it, I made the decision not to let people from China come in. We love people from China, but they were having a tremendous problem. And at the end of January, I said, you can't come in. You can't come in. And we saved tens of thousands, and everybody, even our critics, give me credit for that. But we saved tens of thousands of lives. And then I banned Europe from coming in, because Europe, many of the people that couldn't come here went to Italy, and they went to Spain and France, and we had to ban Europe, and we did that fairly shortly thereafter. So we've been very early, and our testing has been phenomenal, and we came up with ventilators that we're the kings of ventilators. We're making thousands of ventilators a week. All our people have one. Not one person that needed a ventilator has not gotten one. Every single person that needed a ventilator got one. And It's been incredible. Now we're helping other countries because it's hard to make. They're expensive and they're big and they're very highly complex. And we're helping other countries, many other countries. We're sending them ventilators.